Everybody stop what you're doing, stop what you're doing. Carl Edwards is alive. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Yes, 3 episodes this week. Man, I'm getting on a pretty good roll, if I do say so myself. The sun keeps going behind the clouds, so the light keeps fluctuating in here. I'm gonna go from being like tan to really pale really quickly. But anyway, aside from that, we got a couple things to talk about on today's final episode of the week. I'm gonna also give my Martinsville predictions towards the end of this episode, so let's just jump right in. Don't want to waste any time. My time is too valuable to waste. And I'm sure y'all's is too, so let's get started. The first big bit of news that came out earlier this week, I briefly mentioned it on Wednesday when I did my top 10 drivers of the 2000s video. You can check that out on the side probably, or I'll put a link to it in the description if you haven't seen it already. But it was announced earlier this week that Daniel Hemric will be making his Cup Series debut in a few weeks at Richmond for RCR, driving the number 8 car. Ooh. Ah. That's right. That's right. The 8 car is returning to the Cup Series for the first time since 2009. You know, the 8 car, obviously Dale Earnhardt Jr. made it very famous driving it for many years, the start of his career. But this new car looks a little different. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. But anyway, that's getting talked about a lot because I guess it's a slow news week for NASCAR. It's interesting though because he's not just running the Richmond race, it's also was announced he'll be running the 8 car in the Charlotte Roval race in September, so that'll be pretty fun to see. Daniel Hemric is interesting. He's had some success in the trucks, driving for Brad Keselowski Racing and whatnot, and these days he's been racing Xfinity Series, driving the 21 car. And he seems like he's pretty decent, but he is 27 years old, so he's not exactly a prospect. I mean, these days we talk about all these young, talented drivers, guys like Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, all of them in their early 20s. William Byron's like 20 years old. Daniel Hemric is 27 years old, which is, for reference, that's about the same age as guys like Joey Logano. I mean, he's 2 years older than Kyle Larson. But that doesn't mean he can't drive, and RCR has an empty spot, theoretically. Remember, guys, last season RCR had 3 cars in the Cup Series. They had the 3 with Austin Dillon, the 27 with Paul Menard, and the 31 with Ryan Newman. Well, this season, Paul Menard's now driving for the Wood Brothers, and instead of finding somebody to take over that 27 car, they just kind of dropped the 27 car. So right now, they're just a 2-car team in the Cup Series. So theoretically, if Daniel Hemric were to get some sponsorship behind him, he could possibly take a 3rd car next season. Obviously, money is needed to have that happen, and I'm not sure Daniel Hemric is the biggest draw, but hey, he's got 2 races this season at Richmond and at Charlotte to possibly audition for a full-time ride next year. He's not really even auditioning with the team, he's auditioning with sponsors. So I'm excited for him, hope he has a good run, and yeah, let's move on. The thing I came running in here all excited about is that Carl Edwards, yeah, that's right, the Carl Edwards, the one and only Mr. Backflip, he was on the NASCAR Sirius XM radio with Claire B. Lang, talking really extensively for the first time, I feel like, in over a year. Remember Carl Edwards at the beginning of 2017, like a month before the season was supposed to start, suddenly, shockingly announced that he was stepping away from full-time racing, and ultimately racing in general. He has not raced anything since then. And so for the last year, almost year and a half, we really haven't heard much from Carl Edwards. He's just been kind of keeping it low-key. So that's why I was so excited, because getting to listen to Carl Edwards' beautiful voice once again, and hear him kind of just talk about what he's been up to and what he's planning was kind of weird. I did not hear the full interview. I heard bits and pieces of it after it aired, but I also read online many of his most interesting quotes, so I thought I'd analyze a few of the things he said. Most importantly, when asked whether he had any plans to return to NASCAR or Cup Series or anything like that, he said no. So that's sad. But it's not exactly really surprising. I mean, Carl Edwards in 2016 came this close to winning his first Cup Series championship. And for his whole career, he was always in top-notch equipment. And when he was with Gibbs in the 19 car, he was in a top-notch ride. And we chose to leave that ride with the amount of young competition there was in NASCAR. We have guys like Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle kind of being forced out, or kind of just running out of options. Carl Edwards, chances of him ever coming back and getting a ride, very, very slim. A ride for like one race weekend here and there. Maybe he gets a Daytona 500 ride one day or Brickyard 400 ride. That's still likely, but he's never going to be in the full-time. He's never going to be a full-time driver again. I feel like maybe nobody said it, but I think it's been pretty obvious since he made the announcement over a year ago. So that doesn't super surprise me. I mean, he did in his interview, he made noises like, oh, it'd be nice to maybe run a couple races here and there at some point, but he has no plans to do so. And that I think he could do. I think he can put together, much like Danica did for Daytona this year. I think Carl Edwards is capable of putting together a ride for 1 or 2 race weekends a year, but right now does not have any plans to do that. So that was really the biggest takeaway from the interview, is that Carl Edwards is not coming back to racing anytime soon, but he is still chilling. He did say that he keeps up with a lot of people, especially from Gibbs and a lot of people, a lot of people associated with NASCAR. He still keeps up with a lot of them, so, he's got his connections, so, he's going to continue to tease us. But anyway, I still just get baffled by the whole Carl Edwards deal. I mean, Carl Edwards only came into the sport. His rookie season in the Cup Series was 2005, and so he only ran about 12 full seasons and was still in his prime when he chose to walk away. I mean, Carl Edwards has won 28 races in those 12 years, so he's been one of the top drivers in the sport. He's been one of the most popular drivers in the sport. He's been clearly one of the most talented. He's always driven the best equipment, and it just still baffles me why he would walk away. I obviously don't know Carl Edwards personally. I don't even really know that much about his personality, apparently. But, the way he's been talking is he just wanted downtime. He wanted time to go do other things that he enjoys in life. There's a very, very kind of profound sort of worldly speak about him, which I think is interesting. I said this over a year ago when I made a video reacting to that announcement. If you're in a position like Carl Edwards is, personally, financially, all that stuff, sure, why not take advantage of your opportunities and go do something else that you enjoy, especially if, the grind of racing 38 weeks in a row during, most of the year is a lot to, handle. So I'm still surprised by it. It's still one of those things where if I'm still a NASCAR fan 40, 50 years down the line, I'll be telling my grandkids, oh, there was a driver, Carl Edwards, who he had it all. He had everything. He had fame, fortune, and he gave it all away to go farm beets in Missouri somewhere. I don't know what he's doing. He's farming something. So yeah, it perplexes me still to this day. Honestly, I just don't even know what to say. We can make up our conspiracy theories as to why he left. I honestly kind of believe that maybe Joe Gibbs forced him out to make room for Daniel Suarez, but upon further analysis, I don't think that's true. I don't think there's any conspiracy. I think Carl Edwards actually wanted to leave, and that still surprises me, but maybe one day all will become clear. Anyway, moving on. Not a slow news week for NASCAR. Gotta talk about what we can here. Let's make our picks for Martinsville. Martinsville. One of the most fun tracks on the circuit. One of the most unique for sure. Martinsville's the first real short track of the season so far. I mean, we went to Phoenix, which is like a mile, but Martinsville's a half-mile paperclip with not much banking. You kind of just gotta ease your way through that one. It's one of the toughest tracks to make predictions at, especially these days. I mean, back in the day, we had drivers like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson would dominate Martinsville. They had tons of wins here between the two of them. But nowadays, Jeff Gordon's obviously gone, and Jimmy Johnson, at least this season, doesn't seem to have quite the equipment he's had in years past, so this is definitely a tough race to make predictions for. But if you want my pick, my number one top pick for the guy who I think is going to win this weekend, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking about the last time we were at Martinsville, and Denny Hamlin didn't really make very many friends. But Denny Hamlin historically has some of the best numbers at Martinsville among active drivers, and he's driving Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota equipment. And Joe Gibbs Racing, the last several years, and it seems to just be consistent year in, year out, Joe Gibbs Racing has had the best short track program among any team in NASCAR. Even though I know the last time we were here, Hamlin wrecked Chase Elliott and then kind of wrecked himself at the end of the race, he still was in position to finish top 3 or even win the race because he had good equipment. And actually, Kyle Busch, his teammate, ended up winning the race, so Toyota was all over that top 5. So Hamlin's my pick, but I think you can't go wrong with Kyle Busch. Martin Truex Jr., I don't know. If you're doing like a fantasy league or something like that, I don't know if I'd pick Martin Truex Jr. This week just because Truex is so good at the mile and a half and the bigger tracks. I don't know if you'd want to waste a pick on him this week. I think he'll still be a top 5, top 7 contender, but I don't know if he's going to be a race win contender. The two drivers I'm very interested to see how they perform are Chase Elliott and Jimmy Johnson, because Chase Elliott, I think, should be a top 3 pick for this weekend's race. In fact, I might have picked him to win this race, except he's coming off a pretty lousy weekend at Auto Club, plus his car chief is going to be out this weekend. So I don't know how big of an impact that's going to have, but those two combined, it makes me a little nervous to pick Chase Elliott. I still think he's going to be a top 10, probably even a top 5 car throughout most of the race, but I don't know if I can pick him to be the winner. That's why I'm going with Hamlin. Jimmy Johnson, like I said, has won here a bunch. He has even more grandfather clocks than probably his big house can even hold. He's a good pick. That team's just not been good this year. They just haven't been that good. They finished top 10 at Auto Club, which is their best finish of the season. Martinsville's a completely different track than that. Jimmy Johnson's good at Martinsville, but I'm not feeling it. I think he'll run top 10, but I don't really even think he's going to be a top 5 driver. I think they're going to be an 8th place car, 7th place car. Hopefully they can at least finish there and build on what they had last week, but if I'm going to just go by driver capability, I think Jimmy's probably capable of winning, capable of being one of the favorites, but just that team, everything combined, I don't know, I'm not feeling it this week. Another driver actually I'm really interested. I'm not going to pick him. I don't even think he's necessarily going to run top 10, but I'm interested to see how drivers like Darrell Wallace Jr. do this weekend. Martinsville is such a unique racetrack that we see guys like AJ Allmendinger often run better here than he does at most tracks, and it caters to a very unique driving style that maybe doesn't translate onto other racetracks, but there are some drivers who are just really good at Martinsville for some reason. And Bubba Wallace is a good driver overall, but he's won here in the Truck Series multiple times, so could we see Bubba Wallace maybe sneak in, get a top 10, maybe have a pretty good day at Martinsville? I think that would be cool. Again, his equipment is lousy, but I think maybe this is just a track that caters to his driving style enough that he can muscle that thing into a top 10 finish. I don't think he's going to win top 5. I don't think he's going to win the race, but maybe a top 10 isn't too far out of the equation. So if you're looking for a long shot pick, maybe Bubba's your guy, but I don't even know if I'd go that. I might go with a guy like Larson or somebody who's historically not great at Martinsville, but might come through. Maybe Eric Jones, he's driving a Toyota. He hasn't been that great at Martinsville, but he's driving a Gibbs car. Maybe he does well. Suarez, same thing. But yeah, there you have it. Let me know who your picks are for this weekend's race at Martinsville. Do you think it's going to be a Hendrick car like Chase Elliott or Jimmy Johnson or one of the others? Or do you think the Toyotas are going to have this one locked down? It's going to be interesting to see. So thank you guys for watching so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you check out the episodes from earlier this week. If you haven't already, subscribe if you like NASCAR and you want to see more of what I have to say about NASCAR. Do that. Like, share, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you again after the Martinsville race, either Sunday or Monday, probably. Should be fun. See you guys.